Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. This is episode 2 of Melissa Knits for Fun. And I want to thank everybody who made comments, whether that was through personal text messages, through Facebook where I posted, through Instagram where I posted, on here, or in person like my ladies at my yarn shop who gave me some really kind words and some real encouragement to keep going. So with that said, I'm going to continue on with this program, and let me introduce myself. If you've not seen my intro video, then my name is Melissamccall. I live in Northwest Arkansas. I have 2 grown sons. Neither one of them will let me knit sweaters for them. So there is that. I do knit a few other things for them, and my youngest agreed to a t-shirt. We'll see how that goes. I'm still looking for the perfect t-shirt pattern. So that's who I am. I am an avid and obsessed knitter. If I have enough time to sit down and knit a few stitches, I'm going to sit down and knit a few stitches. So that's how I get a lot of things done, is I'm just absolutely obsessed about it. And I do some test knits. And speaking of test knits, I want to talk about what I'm wearing today, because this is the Ophelia tee. It is a test knit I did. It's by, I'm going to look at her name real quick because I'm not positive I'm pronouncing it right, but Linnea Elizabeth Knits. She is on Instagram. If I get this out tonight, I won't be able to link to the pattern because it doesn't actually release until tomorrow. Today is Thursday, July 24th. It releases on Friday, July 25th. If I don't get it linked before I release this video, then I will go back and edit and release it. All of the patterns I'm talking about today will be linked down in the description. So if you miss what I've said about one of them, you will be able to go and see where it's at if you miss where I tell you to go look. So with that being said, like I said, this is the Ophelia tee. It is by Linnea Elizabeth Knits, and it is knitted out of Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which is the recommended yarn. This is the color Poppy Blue. This was really a delight to knit. It was a very clear pattern. The designer herself was very supportive in the chat and was very helpful. There were a few little tweaks that needed to be made. She took those suggestions great. I have done test knits where when you say, hey, this might be wrong, there was some pushback. So it was really nice to hear, oh, let me check that out and see if, I need to make a change. And if I do, then I will. Maybe my math was wrong. And if it wasn't wrong, she came back and explained and helped the person figure out where, they had gone wrong in their pattern. So she was super supportive. I would test knit for her again in a heartbeat. And so I knitted this. You start out, you knit like one round of the lace on one shoulder, you break the yarn, you knit the other round, and then you join them together. I'm not going to give you numbers or tell you how you join or anything else because this will be a paid for pattern. And then once you join, then you continue knitting the lace, you knit back and forth, you do these raglans. This is a compound raglan. You do the raglans down, and then you go back and you put an applied I-cord on the neck, and you do, the pattern says applied I-cords on the sleeves and on the bottom. And let me get closer so you can see this really beautiful. You see that like gorgeous, looks like leaves, this beautiful lace pattern down the 2 shoulders, right? And then the rest of it is basically stockinette with the exception of the side there. You can see there's a little bit of ribbing on the side, and it makes it really nice because it breaks up that just stockinette knit and it keeps your attention. I didn't mind knitting on it. A lot of times I'll get past the splitting for sleeves on a regular raglan and do knit a lot of those. I'll get down there where I'm just knitting and I get a little bored, and so sometimes it's hard for me to pick them up, and I'll cast on something else that, I'm going to be in the part of the sweater where I'm doing something, either, making color work or lace or whatever. This did not do that to me. It really did keep my attention. As I said, it was a joy to knit. Now, having said that, and I want to make clear to y'all, this was not a pattern problem. This was a me problem. And I want to talk about this, and I'll be talking about one of the things I'm working on as well about a problem, because I've heard a lot of people Especially beginner knitters say to me, because I'm an experienced knitter, I knit a lot of garments. I like to think I'm a very good knitter, but people will say, oh, you wouldn't make a mistake like that. Girl, I make mistakes. I make lots of mistakes in my knitting. And this one is a prime example. This is the t-shirt that broke my knitting for a night. Nothing has ever made me not want to knit. I have been sick. I had surgery. I don't know if you can see the scars here. I've got one, you know, I've got an incision right there, and then one on my thumb. I had trigger finger and trigger thumb, and I had that corrected. It's been about a month ago. That night, I was knitting away. I did get permission from my doctor to knit that night if I felt like it. So I wasn't doing anything that was going to harm myself by knitting. But that night I was knitting, and I do have a little video. If you check out my Instagram, you'll see a little video of me knitting that night with this, you know, big bandage on and everything else. So nothing breaks me really. Well, I got this one knitted, and I had, you know, done all of this. I get down to where you split for the sleeves. I'm really excited because I'm going to split for sleeves. And I do my stitch count, and I don't have enough stitches on the front. We're not talking about a couple of stitches here where I could just go fudge it and do some make ones or some knit front and backs or whatever. We're talking 30 stitches. I was 30 stitches short on the front. That's a lot of stitches. And I'm not a small girl. So it's going to make a difference, and it's going to not fit right at all. I didn't have any choice. I had to rip the whole thing back. So I ripped the whole thing back. Decided to make a positive out of it. I said, well, you know, this is knit on a size 2 needle is the recommended needle size. And I did get gauge with it. But I got in my head and started second guessing myself and decided I should probably go up to a 2.5 so that I would make sure that, you know, the numbers were right. And I will say, after blocking the entire garment, I did get gauge at a 2.5. I don't know what it is, and I know Tash at Mostly Knitting, she had the same thing where once she started knitting the garment, that it did grow from what her swatch was. I don't know, sometimes swatches lie, sometimes they don't. I did have one recently that lied enough that I knitted a size down in a sweater. That's a different story and a different podcast because it's a different test knit. But back to this one, you know, I ripped it all out. I decided, okay, I'll move up to a size 2.5. So I had this little bitty ball of yarn. I mean, it was probably like this big, where I had knitted this first sleeve. Well, what happens if you go up a needle size? You use more yarn, right? Yes, you do. Did my brain tell me that? No, it did not. So I get almost to the end and realize I'm not going to have enough yarn. Okay. So I just pulled the needles out. I set that little swatch aside. And the third time's the charm. It really was the charm. I got it knitted. I got the other side knitted. I joined it. I knitted down, obviously counting a little bit more often than I did before to make sure that I was going to get the right number. I got down, I split for sleeves. It was the right number. It was fantastic. Finished it out. Got to the bottom. Well, first, actually, what I did, and I usually do this, I try to put my neckline on. For sure before I do my sleeves, because things sit differently, and so your sleeves will fit differently. They'll sit a little bit higher up, so you need to make sure for the length that you've done your neck if you didn't start with the neck. And of course with this one I did not, because you do the sleeves and then you join. So I did go in whenever I got to a point where I got to the end of a ball of yarn. I did go put this applied I-cord on, and it wasn't that hard, but it wasn't that enjoyable either. Right, I'd done some I-cord bind-offs, and I kind of preferred that. Well, I did see in the pattern where at the bottom you break the yarn and you do an applied I-cord, and at the sleeves you break the yarn and you do an applied I-cord. And I wondered and was like, why am I doing that instead of just doing a bind-off? Well, did I go to the chat room and ask, hey, is there a reason you're doing the applied versus doing a bind-off? No, I did not, because I can figure this out for myself, right? So I went to Google and I Googled, is there a difference? And Google came back to me and said that the applied I-cord is a little neater than an I-cord bind-off. So I thought, well, that must be what she was thinking, and that's why she did it. So I'm going to do it the way the pattern suggests that I do it. So I knitted down to the bottom. I broke my yarn. I put the I-cord on. No problem. Got one sleeve done. You know, put the applied I-cord on. No problem. The other sleeve, however, and this is where it broke me. Got all the way finished. Did the applied I-cord. Got all the way back to those last 3 stitches where you graft them with the first 3 stitches. And I lost the stitches. I tried to just pull back the I-cord. I could not just pull back the I-cord because it got all tangly and all weird. Because I was like, I should be able to just pull back the I-cord because I've got a bind off there, so I'll be fine. Well, except for I wound up having to cut the yarn, and then I wound up having to pull back to where I had knitted, you know, to where I had split it. Well, I did keep my head long enough to get it back on needles and put some stitch stoppers on there so that I didn't lose this beautiful lacy pattern and wind up having to rip the whole sweater out. So yay me. But as soon as I got that done, I stuck those stitch stoppers on. I threw this puppy across the room, promptly got up out of my recliner and walked over and stomped on it. This was midnight. For the next hour, I wandered around my house. I tried to pick up knitting. I couldn't knit on anything. So I tried printing out some patterns, thinking maybe a new pattern will inspire me. Nope. So I just wandered around, just bereft, right? I was just, oh my gosh, what have, you know, this sweater, I can't do anything. I just can't. I walked back over to it a couple more times and stomped on it. Finally, about 1 o'clock, I went to bed. I got up the next morning, which was Saturday, and because I had been at the yarn shop on Friday and I had said, I'm finishing this tonight. So I go in on Saturday and the ladies ask me if I got it done. And I tell them the story. And Saturday morning when I got up, not only did I walk over and stomp it, I ground the ball of my foot into that thing and told it how bad. I mean, I was mad. I was really upset with this. And so Saturday afternoon, I get home from the yarn shop. I stomped on it a couple more times, ground it in the floor a couple more times. I mean, I'm really upset. This yarn is amazing because it didn't do anything with all of that abuse. And so finally Sunday, I said, okay, you've thrown your tantrum. Get over it. Pick up the dang t-shirt and finish it. Which I did. Had no problem with the applied I-cord. Got it done. And then after I got it done, I gave all the feedback. I did everything. I went into the chat room and I asked the designer. I said, was there a reason you did the applied I-cord instead of doing the I-cord bind off? To which she says, no, I just didn't even think about the bind off. You can absolutely do the bind off if you want to. Okay, lesson learned. Go ask. Don't assume you're going to figure it out, right? And oh, it must be because it's neater, which it was not. I did go. I've done the Moonset Tee by Ozetta, and I will link that one below as well. All of the patterns I'm going to talk about today will be linked below in the description, so you'll be able to find them. But I did the Moonset Tee, and she has you do a bind off with the I-cord, and so I compared them. The applied was not any neater than my bind off. I am a fairly tight knitter, so that could have something to do with it. So I would have, if I had asked, I would have just done the bind off. I won't say that I'm sorry I did the applied, because I'd never done an applied I-cord before, and so that was a new skill that I learned. I'm happy I did that, but I could have learned that up here and then just done the bind off on the other ones and been just fine. So, lesson learned, right? Always ask. Go on. But having said that, even having it break me, I would knit this again, guys. This is beautiful. I might knit it again. I haven't decided yet. If I do, obviously I'll use a different color, but man, this yarn, this pattern, it is just stunning. And it was great. I mean, it was just well written. I can't say enough good things about it. Hopefully you'll go check it out tomorrow when it releases. It's really exciting. So that is, I'm going to call it my finished object for this one, even though I finished it probably a month back or so. It is the one that I'm going to talk about that I have gotten finished, that I test knitted, and that is releasing tomorrow. Now, I have one more test knit, and I did talk about it a little bit in the last podcast where I talked about the t-shirt but the sweater, the colorwork sweater that I'm test knitting. I think I'm saying this right. It's the Jana Ludi. I'm going to hold up the picture It's by Kirsten Michelle. She makes stunning, stunning patterns. So I was lucky enough to test knit it. She does still have some spots. She uses Yarn Pond to do her test knitting, and she does have some spots left. I noticed that there were some sizes left, but the deadline is the end of August. We're coming up on the 1st of August, and this is a lot of color work. So, you know, please don't go apply unless you know that you can complete it by the deadline, unless you message Kirsten Michelle first and make sure she's okay if you're not. Having said that, I'm going to show you, and this is, I don't work on this anywhere but home in my recliner, because I will show you, I have, these are cones by Holst Garn, and I have a cone and a huge 200-gram ball that I wound off of both colors. So this is pretty prohibitive to try to take it anywhere. So it just sits, well, that fell on the floor. It just sits in my recliner area, and I knit on it at home only. But I decided to do colors sapphire and bleached white. And this is how far I have gotten on it. I'll try to hold it up a little bit and pull this down. You can see I finished the big thing there. The only modifications I did, and I got started a little bit late. I was a little late to the party. So people had already asked this question and asked if, instead of doing the contrast color up here for the collar, if you could do the main color, and Kirsten kindly said yes. So that is what I chose to do as well, because whenever I did I was originally going to do this in a different color. I was going to use a J.C. Rennie. It's Unagi Pearl, and it's a gray color with, like, it looks like the inside of a pearl. And I was originally going to do that, but I didn't really love, it was a little too low contrasty for me. I really like a higher contrast. So I decided to go with the bleached white. These are both Holst Garn Super Soft. This is bleached white, and this is sapphire. So whenever I knitted the collar out of that gray, and then I was going to connect this blue, I really did not like how it looked with the contrast up here. That's just a me thing. I tend to like things a little bit more classic and a little bit more standard, and that to me was just a little further out there. So I was really happy to see that other people had asked, and she had said yes. So I did knit this obviously in the sapphire, and then got down here, and then whenever I get down to where I'm doing the ribbing down at the bottom, I'm also going to do the ribbing in this color, and also the sleeve cuffs. But this will all be color work as well, and it's been really nice. It is a very well written pattern. I haven't had really any questions. I think I may have had one or two small questions, and Kirsten got back immediately. She runs the chat part on Slack, but she looks for test knitters over on Yarn Pond. And if y'all haven't checked that out, if you're wanting to test knit, it's a nice place to go and find places if you're missing them on Instagram. And there's all kinds of designers, bigger designers, smaller designers. There's knitting, there's crochet, etc. I'll link the link for Yarn Pond below as well. And so I'm working on that one. The due date is the end of August. I'll get that done in plenty of time. Hopefully I'll get it done within the next couple of weeks or so. But right now there is another one that's distracting me, and I did talk about this one last episode as well. My brother is coming up tomorrow to visit, and I am working on the Handsome sweater. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, by Petite Knits. And I want to get it to where I'm ready to split for sleeves so that I can try this on him and make sure the yoke depth is right. Because when I went to Jacksonville, I did measure him. I measured his chest circumference. I measured how long the arms should be. I measured from the underarm to where it's going to sit. I did all of that. Did I measure the yoke depth? No, I did not. So I don't know for sure. I want to make sure that where the yoke depth is going to fit him correctly. So I've been working on this. I am in love. If I could hold it right, it would look better. I am in love with this color of yarn. I don't know. I'm going to hold this up a little bit further. If you can see the little silky nips in there. This is Holst Garn Tides, and it is a wool silk blend. I know I could think of that word, but it is a wool silk blend, and I'm holding it double. Again, I have these cones, so this is at home as well. I have 2 of these cones. I love Holst Garn. I love all of their yarn, and it is one of those things, if you came to me and told me I could only ever knit with one yarn brand again for the rest of my life, Holst Garn is who it would be. They're super soft, which I already showed you, which is a blend of wool. I think it's Shetland wool and merino. Everybody goes, oh, it's not super soft. Okay, it's not. You're not going to get like a superwash merino feel. But when you block it and it blocks out and it blooms and you wear it, it does soften up. It doesn't ever become that superwash merino feel. But it does become softer, and it's just beautiful. You saw how gorgeous that color work is, how crisp it is. And then they have Coast, which I have, and I'll show in a later episode whenever I get all my Tulsa tees for the season done. I'll show you all of those. I knitted one in a single strand of Coast, which is their cotton wool blend. And it is really beautiful. It's got a little halo on it. Really love Holst Garn. So these are the two things that I'm really concentrating on, because like I said, Alan gets here tomorrow. I have got to get this ready so that I can put it on him. Worst case scenario, I do have a Monday sweater by Petite Knit, and it's kind of the female version. I can have him put it on. It's the same gauge as this, so I can have him put it on and at least see where the yoke depth is. It'll be a little tight on him, but we can figure it out. Or I can just measure his yoke depth, right, and go from there. So that's the plan for that one. I'm actually working on a whole lot of things. I have some stuff with Yarn Crawl going on right now. I have a bag of all the projects I'm working on that has yarn that Letha sells at Sweet Skeins. And I'm just leaving that bag up there, and I'm working on those as I go. And then, but the things at home, I do have this Oslo hat, and I have it, I did a provisional cast on. She doesn't call for that. That is a mod I made, because I am horrible. If I have to sew down, because you do have to sew this down for a folded brim, I'm horrible at sewing down. I've done a couple of sweaters. The first Monday sweater I did exactly like it. I didn't do a provisional cast on. I sewed it down. I did that with the It's Not a Sweatshirt sweater by Knitting for Olive as well. And I had a bias. It's not that noticeable on the Monday because it was black. It's really noticeable on the It's Not a Sweatshirt sweater because it's light gray. So I started doing provisional cast-ons if I'm going to do a folded collar or a folded brim. But this is the Oslo hat by Petite Knit. It's just really nice. It's a stockinette hat. I'm doing this because last year I got to go to Junction Fiber Mills in Vermont. Whenever I was up, I go to a knitting retreat every year in New Hampshire. And so we went by like Woolly Thistle and Scratch and the Elegant U in Concord, New Hampshire. And then we went to, we forget the name of the place that's closest to, anyway, there's a yarn store as well, a local yarn store. I don't think she's online, that we go to. And then we went up to Junction Fiber Mills. And so they had this yarn in like Hunter Orange. And as I said, my oldest son is going to let me knit him some hats. So I bought myself this because I wanted to knit the hat first to make sure I have enough yardage. I forget the name of this. It's not their striping, obviously. It's kind of a DK, heavy sport DK kind of weight. It's knitting up just beautifully. And I will put in the description, I'll find the orange one and put what the name of this yarn actually is. They only had one skein of the orange left, so I was really lucky to snag it. And so that is my, okay, I really want to like read my Kindle, or I want to watch something, I want to be completely mindless, I'm not doing anything but knitting. That's that one. And then I have one more, and this is by Calibri by Johanna, I think is how you say it. And there's two ways you can get this pattern, and I'll link them both. It is free on the Hobbii website because it uses the Hobbii Friends Kids Silk. This is 77 cotton, 23 silk. And this is the color Oatmeal. The color of the Holst Garn for my brothers was Nightshade. Like I said, I'm not sure about the color of this, and I think I've gotten rid of the band, the yarn band, so I don't know that I'll be able to put the color, but I will put the yarn. But this is available for free on the Hobbii website, but it's also available as a paid pattern on Ravelry. So I'll link both of them so that you can decide which one you're more comfortable with. I did get it free off of Hobbii because that's where I saw it first. I didn't realize it was paid. If I decide to make another one, I will go and pay for the pattern just to give the designer a little support. I haven't decided yet because this is a pretty traditional Nordic Scandinavian type pattern, in the fact that I've noticed a lot of designers who hail from that part of the world, they all know how to knit over there. They assume everybody knows certain things, so the patterns can be kind of skimpy on instructions and just assume that you know certain things. This pattern is like that. This pattern, there are some mistakes in it, I will say. Like, it says something, part of the problem was me. This is another one of those I want to talk about mistakes, because we do make mistakes. I don't care how experienced we are, how good of a knitter we are, we make mistakes, right? Beginners understand that. Mistakes are part of learning. It's not a failure. In fact, fail is just an acronym for first attempt in learning. So I didn't fail at this sweater, I learned. And what I learned was, even though I did do what my friend Henrietta from the yarn shop says, is I read the entire pattern. And I did stop and admire my work as well. Those are her 2 rules. Read the entire pattern before you start, and stop and admire your knitting. Well, I did those. I did both of those things. And I still didn't catch it. When I read through the pattern, I missed this important part that said that on these rows below, you're going to do this extra increase for the neck, right? Because you're doing a V-neck. This is a V-neck pattern. So I missed that. And then for whatever reason, in my head, it told me I was only going to do the raglan part on those rows. So when I got to row 59 and row 61 is where I was going to attach it, I decided to check my count so that if I was off by a count, a stitch or 2, I could just increase them. Well, I'm supposed to have 47 stitches for each side. I had 18. That is a problem. Let me tell you, I had admired it. I had even taken this thing and taken it, because I've got a long enough needle. I had taken it and I had put it over myself to see, oh, well, what I had missed was I was really skewing the arms whenever I would pull it forward. So I had to rip it all back, 59 rows. I'm back up now. I just did row 41. And it is truly a beautiful pattern. This is the top. This is a V-neck, so you do knit it flat at first, but you can see this is a lace pattern on the back, and it's just working up beautifully. I did fall in love with this yarn. I've got another color, and then I've got a couple more colors coming right now. They put it on sale, and I am a sucker for a sale. So I'm knitting it up. As you can see, I have more than 18 for my little V-neck right here, so I am doing it right this time. I probably will knit it again because it is a beautiful design, and now that I know what I'm doing and I saw the part that I missed and I've figured out what she's trying to say, I probably will, but I will tell you, I would not do this as a beginner. I don't think it's very beginner friendly, and that's not to say anything bad about her. She's got some beautiful designs. But there is an assumption, and like I said, I do see this a lot with these kinds. Drops patterns are really notorious for this. They assume you know things. Well, they've all been knitting since they were knee-high to a grasshopper. I have only been knitting for 10 years, so for a decade. I do know some things. There are some things that I don't. So anyway, having said that, I did go back. Like I said, I really read. There was a mistake in the count. It did say including row 28. It should have said including row 29 on how you were supposed to knit, because row 28 would be a wrong side row, and you're not doing increases on on the wrong side. You're only doing them on the right side. So that was a little bit of a mistake. I have no idea if she does test knitting or anything else. I don't know if she has it tech edited. I don't know how she writes her patterns. But I went back and I figured it out. So I'm back to where I needed to be. And then I have one more, and I did not bring the yarn. I meant to, but I forgot to grab it, and I'm not going to pause this and go get it. I do have one more test knit that I just signed up for, and the story's kind of funny. I broke my rule because I knew I didn't have the yarn in my stash for it, but it's this really cute little sweater. It's got a colorwork yoke, and it's got little elk heads. They're really cute. It's really, really cute. I don't know if I can show a picture of it, which is why I'm not. I did reach out to her about her Instagram and stuff and haven't heard back. But the designer's name is Amanda Rush, R-O-U-S-H. It does look like this might be her first pattern. She doesn't have any on Ravelry that I could find. I might have been searching wrong. But I have reached out to her. If she comes back, then I'll put it down in the description if she's got other patterns and stuff. But it's really pretty, and you know, my oldest son is a hunter, and I thought, ooh, I might be able to get him to agree to let me knit this one for him. And so I showed him the design before I said yes, because again, like I said, I don't have the yarn for this. And the yarn recommended is Let Loopy, and she had said she would prefer that we knit in it, but anything would work. But I decided I'd go ahead and buy Let Loopy if I'm going to knit it. I'm doing the base in this really beautiful red color. That's the only thing well, not the only thing I'm changing, because the background I'm not using the Milky Way, which is more of a, it's got like pinks and purples and stuff in it, little speckles. I'm getting one that's ash, and it's a white with a little bit of black in it, and then I'm keeping the color for the elk heads. But I showed it to my son the other day before I committed, and I was like, look at this new sweater I'm thinking about test knitting. And he goes, man, that's really cool. And of course, my little mama head going, woo! And he goes, but don't knit it for me, Mom. I won't wear it. So I was like, okay, fine. I'll knit it for me, and then you can tell me how cool it is whenever I wear it. And yay, because he doesn't say that about a lot of my sweaters. He's pretty basic. He's only liked a couple of the ones that I've knitted. He's never told me like those are ugly and you shouldn't wear them. He just doesn't, and he doesn't really get excited about a lot of things. Like, I'll cook this great meal and he's like, yeah, it was okay. And I know that means it's good. So when he tells me, yeah, that's nice on a sweater, I know he means, hey, you know, that's good. But when he said, man, that's really cool, that is like the height of praise. So I had to knit that. So I do have to order the yarn. And I'm doing a swatch right now to make sure that I get gauge and stuff. So, but I had to laugh because he was like, oh, it's really cool. And I'm going, oh, and he's like, no, don't knit that for me. So I will not be knitting that one for him. That's okay. I'll knit it for myself, and I'll wear it when we go out and do things. So, I did make notes this time because I was a little rambly last time. I want to make sure that I kind of stay. I know that I did do some storytelling. I did a few tangents, but I do want to try to stay in what I was going to talk about. So, one of the things I talked about last time, I said, if you're going to make a garment, you need to know your measurements. And one of my yarn store friends did comment on the video, and then I had more feedback that, hey, that'd be a really great one. Well, people who are experienced knitters probably have their measurements. And so I did not want to, I didn't want to go out there and do it on this video, because if you're not interested in that, it might get a little boring, or it might be like, well, okay, if you didn't do that, I would have watched you to the end, but I had to walk away because that was too much. I'm going to do that in a separate video. In fact, I'm going to record it right after this one, so those will both be uploaded. And I will say, Hobbii Locatelli, and I will link to her website as well. She has a Sweaters That Fit class that she does, a little workshop that she does every once in a while. She puts it in her newsletter, so go sign up for her newsletter. She puts it on Instagram too, but they sell out really quick. It's all remote. It's online through Zoom. And I think it was $49 US. It might have been 59. I don't honestly remember, but I will tell you it was worth every single penny. Because I knew my measurements, but she had a few that I wasn't thinking about. And so I wrote down all my measurements. You get a nice little handout with, you know, what you should do. And then she covered some other things that you could do to modify a pattern to make it fit better. I'm obviously not going to share any of that. But if you're interested in a really comprehensive workshop, she would be a really good one to take it from. She was engaging. She was great. I would take another class from her. In fact, I thought about doing the one. She has one, I think it's modifying, how to modify things to make it like a V-neck if it's a crew neck. It had something to do with modifying sweaters. I almost signed up for it, but I'm lazy. And at this point in my life, I'd rather just buy a V-neck instead of trying to modify another pattern. So I'm a little lazy, and I don't really want to do that. And I'm probably never going to design my own patterns. So I passed on that one. I might take it later, just for knowledge. But that was a really great workshop, and I, you know, recommend that you check it out. But I will do the measurements on a separate video. So I wanted to talk about, there's a couple of new patterns. Sari Nordlund put it out. Hobbii put it out as well. These are free patterns on Hobbii by Sari Nordlund. And she put out, one's a color work and one's kind of a lace pattern. They're called Thelma and Louise. They're both pullover sweaters. So go check that out. They're really pretty. I've already downloaded mine. This is not to be confused with Moonstruck Knits. Natasha Hornsby, she released Thelma and Louise, which is a, Thelma, I think it is the tank that goes under, and then she's got a nice lacy cardigan that goes on top. Those are both paid patterns by Natasha Hornsby. I don't know. They're both called Thelma and Louise. I found it kind of amusing. But I have all 4 of those patterns. So, all right. And then finally, I thought I'd talk a little bit about like some plans that I'm doing. I am working, as I said, I'm working on things at Letha's shop. She had this yarn. It has sold out. There's only like 1 skein left. Yarn Crawl, man, they're all gone. She has this yarn. I honestly don't remember the name of the yarn. I could get up and go get it. I'll put it in the description. I'm trying really hard not to have to edit things together because I have not learned that yet. But it is this really pretty sparkly yarn. I think it's by Araucanica Yarns. It's a cotton yarn. And it's sparkly. And when she first got it, she came in and she pulled me in and she said, "What do you think about this yarn?" I went, "Oh my gosh, no! Oh, no, Letha." And she was like, "Well, you know, they said it's really flying off the shelves." And I was like, "Oh, no, I would never buy that yarn." But then I stopped myself and I said, you know what, I'm probably not your target demographic for this type of yarn that's all variegated and sparkly and pretty, and I'm not wearing sparkly yarns. So I said, go out there and ask the girls out there that are knitting that are younger. You know, they're like in their 20s. And she takes it out there and they all ooh and ah and oh my gosh, that is the most beautiful yarn. And then Ginger, one of my friends at the yarn store, she's closer to my age, she was like, "Oh my gosh, my granddaughters would love that." And I went, "Oh, I have to buy this yarn." Anna has 2 little girls. We got a 3rd one now, right? We got a little boy now, but we got 2 girls. And this is really sparkly, pretty yarn. There were 3 colorways. One was a pink, primarily pink with a little purple. One was primarily teal with a little pink, and then one was primarily purple with a little pink. And so I immediately took a picture of the yarns. I sent it to Anna. I said, "Hey, would the girls like anything out of this?" She came back, "Oh my gosh, that's so gorgeous." And yes, the girls would love it. Azalea wants the teal and Emberlyn wants the purple. And then I'm going to do a couple of dresses for them out of those. They both wanted dresses. So I'm doing the Anker dress and the Sunday dress, both by Petite Knit. Azalea is 7, I think. I think that's right. I may be wrong about the age. I know I'm doing a 7 to 8 for her. I think that's right. Maybe an 8 to 10 anyway. I have to go back and look at the chat to make sure that I've knit the right size. I know I'm doing a 5 to 6 for Emberlyn's. But Azalea's kind of over the matching with her sister. And I know I have a friend, Shauna, who she was one of 3 girls, and she talked about how much she hated having to wear matching things with her sisters. So I got these 2 dresses because they are similar and they go together, right? So they'll look nice if they wear them at the same time, but they do not match in any way. So those are the 2 dresses that I'm working on. And then for little one, Isaiah, I am knitting it's the Sandnes Garn t-shirt number 3, and it is one of those that is in a booklet. I will link to the Ravelry picture. But it is one of those that comes in a booklet, and you have to buy the yarn for one of the patterns before you can buy the booklet. I found that out when we were in Minnesota on our first girls trip, and we were doing like our own little yarn crawl. And I was in there, and I really wanted, they had this, it's a short sleeved t-shirt. I'm actually making it long sleeve this time, and I'm knitting it out of Sandnes Garn Lena. I know that this is all like cotton blends and stuff, and these guys live up in Massachusetts, but they'll get more wear out of it because they'll be able to wear it in spring, fall, and summer, and possibly winter when it's not too cold, right? Or they can just put tights on and a jacket and they'll be fine. So they'll get more use out of it if I make them long sleeved than they will short sleeved and only able to wear them in the dead of summer. So I'm making this one long sleeved. It is a short sleeve, but we went and they had knitted a sample of this and it was hanging up on the wall, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to make that. Now, keep in mind, I have no grandchildren. Probably will never have any grandchildren. And even the ones that I claimed as grandchildren at that time, I didn't have any boys. Everybody was a girl. I did not care. This shirt was that cute. I had to knit this shirt. It's a little Henley. It's got these little buttons. It's the cutest thing ever. So, but I balked at it. I was like, what do you mean I have to buy the yarn? I'm not going to buy the yarn. I don't want that yarn. I just want the pattern. Well, I can't sell you the book if you don't buy the yarn. I looked through the book. It was the one that I really wanted to knit. So I was like, I'm not buying that yarn. Well, guess what? I bought the yarn because I wanted the pattern. So I wound up with it in my stash. And last year, which, by the way, I said I went into Letha's shop last November. I did not. I went back. It went into Letha's shop last February. So I don't know what last November was that was heavy on my mind, but it was last February. And so when I got in there and she started talking about she was going to bring in some Sandnes Garn Lena and 10 Lena for the summer, I was like, oh my gosh, I have that in my stash. Well, let me knit that. I want to knit that. So I knitted the little Henley, and it lives now in Letha's shop. I did say, well, once I get, a boy, if I need it back, then I'll just take it back. Well, I wanted to knit this one long sleeve. That one's short sleeve, so I'm not taking it back. It lives there. And Sandnes Garn Lena, I will tell you one thing to think about. And 10 Lena does the same thing, which is the thinner one. I don't know about Tick Lena. I'm knitting my first thing in it. But it is horrible. It looks horrible when you're knitting with it. It is gapey. It is uneven. It looks like you're rowing out. It just does not look very pretty when you're knitting with it. But boy, oh boy. And this is how the Holst Garn is too. It does this. Because Holst Garn has spinning wool on it. The Lena and 10 Lena do not. It's just how they knit up. But they all knit up like really gapey, and really they don't look very nice. But boy, oh boy, you get those things blocked. And with the Lena and 10 Lena, I soak them sometimes overnight to let those fibers, the cotton, it's a cotton viscose, and which is a man-made bamboo, and linen blend. So I sometimes will soak them overnight to let them really absorb and bloom. But they just turn out to be just beautiful things once you block them. So don't get discouraged if you start knitting with some of these yarns and they look really funky. It'll block out. And that's my answer for everything. I'm going to have to get Letha. She owns a yarn. Her yarn store is inside of a t-shirt store. She owns custom tees. I'm going to have to get her to make me a sweater that says blocking fixes everything, because it usually does. Okay, I'm trying to think. I just looked at my thing. I've covered everything that's in my notes. I did want to say, please make some comments. Please give me some feedback. As long as the feedback is not like, oh, your hair was really ugly. Oh, you looked like crap today, right? I do training, and I always tell my people that I train, I'm like, give me some feedback. Give me some honest feedback. As long as it's not a personal attack on me, I'm not going to get upset about it. I can't fix things if I don't know there's anything wrong. So please give me some feedback if there's something that you think. Some of the things I heard last time was you need to zoom in more and not have so much background. I tried to do that this time, but I've also got to keep myself in the frame. And the tripod that I bought, because I did buy a tripod, which I was pretty excited about. You won't see me leaning and all this because it's got a little remote. I don't think that it does it to where I can actually turn my iPad upright, so I'm having to do it like this. I may try it on my phone next time, but right now I'm trying to keep it kind of, low cost. And I will say, I meant to say this at the beginning, but I will tell you, there are a lot of podcasts out there. I know they're very high-techy, very well edited and everything with music, all that. I will be more low-techy. I probably never will have an intro. I'm pretty basic in all parts of my life, with the exception of my knitting and my yarn. And maybe shoes. I like pretty shoes. But I'm pretty basic. So I'm probably never going to be one of those that it's really, really well edited and there's music and intros and flowers and all of that. Now, I will say, if you got my reference for the high-techy, low-techy, bonus points. And I will link to the little YouTube clip that is about this. It was a Big Bang reference. I love Big Bang Theory. I know a lot of people really don't care. I love it. I watch it. It's on HBO Max. And so I did go Google, and it's season 6, episode 5 that is in. And there is a scene where Penny has visited Leonard in his lab, and he shows her this really cool laser, and she's like, ooh, that's high-techy. And she turns and she looks and she goes, "What is this?" And he says, "That's a pencil sharpener." And she goes, "Oh, low techie techie." So that's always been one of my little favorite scenes. My other one is the "Please pass the butter." But that's with Sheldon and Amy. So anyway, at this point I'm kind of rambling, and we're at 45 minutes. Went a little bit over. I don't know that I'll keep them to 30 minutes all the time, but I will try to keep them under an hour. Let me know. Also, make some comments and let me know if there's things that you want me to do, like the garment measurements that I'm going to do separate. Are there things that you want me to talk about? Do you want me to talk about different yarns? Do you want me to talk about sweater constructions, or doing a provisional cast on? You know, are there things that you would like me to cover? I plan on doing this about once a week, unless it just becomes too much, and then I will back off and I'll do it, you know, every other week or so. But right now I plan, as long as I'm having fun, and let me tell you, I am kind of having fun, and I know I'm kind of talking to myself here because there's nobody else here. But as my friend Teresa's mom used to say, you meet a better class of people that way. So I'm kind of having fun talking to myself and talking about my knitting. As long as it stays fun and it doesn't become too overwhelming, I plan on doing them about once a week. And I would be happy to put out other smaller videos if y'all want to learn more. Just let me know, make some comments. And I will start doing the regular YouTube, like, subscribe, share this video. If you want to make sure you never miss a video, you can click on the little bell. It looks like a little bell. It's the notifications, and it'll notify you every time I upload one. And so, having said that and done all of my little housekeeping, I want to thank everybody for spending some time with me, because it is really important to me that y'all do that. I mean, it means so much, because there's a lot of knitting podcasts out there, and there's a lot of other things to do with your time. So, thank you for spending this time with me, and I will catch you on the flip side. Thank you. Bye. Well, if I can figure out how to make my remote work.